We're live once again. This is the replay cultural sports show where we're still trying to make your day. We got a lot of things to uncover, guys. So buckle up. Let's ride. Good evening once again, and welcome to another edition of the replay where we're still trying to make your day. I'm your host, Jabril A. Rashad, aka Real Deal Jabril, and we're coming to you live this evening. Got a lot of things to uncover. As you can see, I am Dolo Solo. We'll be joined by maybe a couple of my guests a little bit later. But we had to get this thing going. Want to talk about a lot of things that you all have seen in the news recently with the P. Diddy situation. Other news we got uncovered, unfortunately, and we'll start the show like that. We're going to talk about the passing of former bass guitar player of the famous Jackson family, Tito Jackson. Man, that was kind of shocking news to hear that we've lost another one. Right off of the back of losing Frankie Beverly of Maze, we find out that Tito Jackson passed away at the age of 70 years of age. They say he was down in Mexico and he was driving back to his home in Oklahoma. I didn't even know he had a home in Oklahoma, but he did. And they say he suffered a what they call a shock heart attack. And this shock heart attack, they say, it can consist of just being overweight and having acute attack of the arteries where they close. And one of the doctors was speculating that they probably was, joyriding, eating, so forth. They said they was having a nice time, and then when they stopped while it was raining, they said they was putting the top up on the vehicle, and he started feeling chest pains. They did get him to the hospital, rushed him to the hospital, but unfortunately, he passed away of cardio arrest. So I want to be able to show this clip of Tito Jackson, because if you grew up like I did as a huge Jackson 5 fan, man, this really touches you, because Tito probably wasn't, as far as performing, probably wasn't the most talented of the group. That's why they always kind of picked that Tito. But man, could he play that guitar. But let's take a look at what transpired with the passing of Tito Jackson.
Tito Jackson, member of the iconic Jackson 5, has died.
That's so sweet. They're all looking upward.
As the saying goes, life is pretty unpredictable, and Hollywood celebrities constantly remind us of that. One day, you might be enjoying your favorite singer's music, and the next, you're heartbroken to hear they've passed away. It's tough, right? Well, the same goes for Janet Jackson and other Hollywood stars, as Tito Jackson, member of the legendary Michael Jackson family and the Jackson 5, has recently passed away, leaving the world and Black America in shock. We all remember how the world felt when Michael Jackson left us in 2009, leaving behind a lasting legacy. His fans still mourn his loss, and now the passing of his elder brother Tito and their reunion has left his family and colleagues heartbroken and in tears. What's even more tragic to the story is the fact that just 4 days before his passing, Tito Jackson, one of the founders of the Jackson 5 and older brother of Michael Jackson, shared a heartfelt post on Instagram honoring his younger brother who passed away in 2009. He posted a picture of a memorial for Michael in Munich, Germany, and wrote, "Before our show in Munich, my brothers Jackie, Marlon, and I visited the beautiful memorial dedicated to our beloved Michael Jackson. We're deeply grateful for this special place that honors not only his memory, but also our shared legacy. Thank you for keeping his spirit alive." I mean, it feels kind of ironic to think that he was missing his baby brother, and just a few days later, fate has reunited them in another world, leaving his fans and other family members heartbroken. Tito Jackson, a much-loved member of the Jackson 5 and the older brother of Michael and Janet Jackson, has sadly passed away at 70.
So there you have it. As many of you already know, learned about this tragic sudden death of Tito Jackson of the famed family, the Jacksons, or the Jackson Five. For many of us, we grew up back in the early 70s and we watched the Jackson Five do their thing. They was like our Beatles, if you will. I mean, for many of us, we remember even when they was doing the cartoon. And man, that was one of my favorite cartoons growing up, man. I would lose a fit, man, if any of my aunts or relatives try to turn that TV off for the Jackson 5 cartoon, man. And to see them guys get immortalized as a cartoon character, that was just big time for me. And of course, you know, like many people, the favorite person in the group was Michael Jackson. But Tito, man, he definitely played a big role, a big part. And probably if it weren't for Tito, you know, who knows what the Jackson 5 would have been, because he's the one that snuck the guitar out of his father's closet and broke the strings on it. And of course, many of y'all know the story. Joe Jackson, man, come home from work and find out that his favorite guitar, the string was broken. And he used that guitar to go out and hustle a little bit when he needed to bring in some extra money, some extra cash into the house. He come home and realized that his favorite guitar string had been broken. And and the story goes, after breaking the string on the guitar, he suffered a whooping. And then he turned around and gave the guitar to Tito and told, now show me what you can play. And he began to play the guitar, man. And as they say, the rest was history. They started the group after that. So yeah, unfortunate situation, like I say, on the heels of already losing Frankie Beverly of Maze. We just don't know time. We don't have a lot of it the way we may think. And it's very important for us to try to maximize every opportunity that we get in this life. Everybody has an appointed term. We all do. Nobody gets out of this life alive. Nobody. None of us are exempt. So again, you know, we want to make sure that we remember that life is so precious. I know we say these things all the time, but it really is. It really is, because we come into this life by God's permission and we exit this life by God's permission. And again, no one knows the hour, the time, or the day. No one know. And like I said, it was reported that they was coming back from Mexico and they was riding inside the vehicle and was having a nice, you know, time and laughing and being jovial, and decided to stop and put the car on top of I think it began to rain, as they say, and they decided to pull over and pull the top on top of the vehicle, and he started, you know, begin to feel chest pains. So again, check your health. You know, you owe it to yourself. You know, I try to remind myself to do the same thing and try to keep some sort of workout. So if you don't like working out, just, you know, defeat that enemy. I know it's sometimes, especially as we begin to age, it's hard to get out of bed. It's hard to, you know, work the long day or whatever your time is. It's hard to stop and pivot and say, you know what, let me get this workout in. But we got to do it. Even if it's 10, 15, 20 minutes, try to get that cardio up. That's the biggest thing. It ain't so much about the physique and all of the atomies that you're trying to get, abs and all that. It's about that cardio. The heart is one of the biggest organs inside the body. You got to have blood circulation, blood flow. I got a good friend of mine by the name of Tara Robinson. She runs the Black Heart Association. She's been on my show. I've interviewed her a couple of times. She's doing some really great and big things. So if y'all are interested in, you know, getting an EKG done or talking about heart conditions or some of the things you may have felt, many of us probably had a little light, subtle, you know, thrust of pain in our arms, whatever the case may be. They say these are signs of a temporary or a light heart attack. So don't take it for granted. Again, you can go to her social media page. It's the Black Heart Association, and they come out and do things free in the community. So again, get checked out, guys, because this was definitely a tragedy on all levels. Again, coming off of the heels of Frankie Beverly and Maze. So may you rest in peace, Tito Jackson. We appreciate the music, man. The music will live on. And we were so glad to see that you had a chance to do a couple of albums toward the end after putting your career behind, called Tito Time. That was his first album that he put out. So again, our condolences go out to the Jackson family, and we pray that they find comfort and be at peace. So now what we want to do is talk real quick about these Dallas Cowboys, and then we're going to get to the biggest topic of them all is the P. Diddy, Sean Combs situation and that occurred. And I'm gonna break some stuff down briefly. I won't be on here real long, but I'm gonna break some stuff down briefly because a lot of times you get people with all these opinions, but they don't have the experience behind the opinions. I have the experience behind the experience of what Diddy is about to go through. So we're gonna talk about that in just a second. But I want to talk about these NFL games real quick. It's not really much to talk about. I only want to talk about two. This is the NFC East, and then I'm talking about. If y'all can come in the chat for me, I appreciate that. Y'all can help me out because you can see I don't have Tim Action Jackson. I don't have Daryl Alexander the Great, nor do I have Jeff Booker. But they may come on or may not come on, but the show must go on. You know, I'm used to doing stuff by myself pretty much anyway, because when I started this whole thing, it was all on Spotify, and I was just doing audio. So I decided to go ahead and do visual as well. But we're going to get into this thing regarding the NFL real quick. But I do think the loss of the Philadelphia Eagles, which they had that game won against the Atlanta Falcons, but as the game goes, it says a game of inches. Well, it definitely was a game of inches at the ball. Saquon Barkley had that catch, but he didn't secure the catch, and the inches of the ball rolled off his fingers, and they went on to lose that game. And big shout out to Robinson, Bijan Robinson, the running back. I thought, man, that young kid he has definitely a bright future. Hopefully he stays healthy. And Kirk Cousins didn't do bad. They didn't make him move around in the pocket enough, if you ask me. But he stood in there strong, man, kept his poise, and he brought them Falcons back. And they did us a favor. The Dallas Cowboys Nation, they did us a favor. They beat the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly. Now, I don't know what y'all take from that, and I understand if you don't take much from it, because Dallas need to, they need to hold their own business. They need to hold their own business. Quit trying to hope that the Eagles lose when you lose. The way they came out and performed, and many of y'all seen my post, I posted there was an Ambers Alert. We had an Ambers Alert. There was 11 kids missing off of defense. And as I said, the last time they saw them, they was wearing white shirts and gray pants somewhere in the Arlington area. And if you find them, contact the NFL commissioner's office. That's exactly what I said on my post, and I meant that. If you found anybody wearing gray pants and a white shirt in the Arlington area, contact the NFL's commissioner's office. And they said they was being abducted by a group of people wearing black and gold, saying who that. So make sure you contact your local authority, because that was an atrocity. That was atrocious for them to come out there and play the way they did, to leave a goose egg out there on defense the way they did. It was just incredible to me, because this is like the return to the scene of the crime. Well, that's exactly what it was, because the last time they was out there, the Green Bay Packers handed them they had. And it didn't make no sense for you to come out and don't understand what the assignment is. So it just seemed like it's just a replay. And I know we get on that roller coaster up and down, up and down. It's crazy. It's just crazy to me that they can come out and just play like that. I mean, grown men and who are being paid handsomely. They talk about Jerry Jones don't pay. We all know Jerry gonna give up the money. Yeah, he may make them wait a little bit or whatever, but at the end of the day, they wind up getting paid. And that's so sickening to know that he pay these guys and they go out there and perform the way they do. No one is setting the edge. No one is gap controlling. Kamari just from the New Orleans Saints just ran any way he wanted to. It was just crazy for an NFL team to give up 6 straight drives, 6 scoring touchdowns. That's crazy. It's asinine. And you call yourself an NFL team that has aspirations of making it to the Super Bowl. I think Cowboy Nation, truthfully, honestly, I really believe that people are just trying to get through the regular season to see exactly what you all may or may not do in the playoff. That's pretty much it. And if y'all agree with me, chat it out. If y'all are sitting there just only waiting for the Dallas Cowboys to get into the playoff just to see what they're going to do, chat that out for me, because I'm telling you, the regular season, it is a week-to-week league. It is a week-to-week league. As again, we saw certain teams that failed. We saw the Arizona Cardinals, who lost the first week, turn around and beat the Los Angeles Rams. And I actually had the Rams to pick to win that game. So, it's a week-to-week league. Now they got the Baltimore Ravens coming up. They got the Baltimore Ravens coming up, and I don't know if they're gonna go out there and lay a goose egg or be prepared for Lamar Jackson or not. But in my estimation, I really don't have them beating the Baltimore Ravens because why? Why am I saying that? Because Baltimore is 0-2, and they backs are really against the wall. I just can't see them. They need this game so bad because in the NFL, I'm telling you, every game matters. Every game matters. This is a hard league to get a win in, period. So if you start about the Baltimore Ravens, so we'll see though. We'll see. I mean, the Cowboys, they got to show up. They got to show up, show out, and they got to play to a level of excellence if they have aspirations of going to the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship. And I know many of y'all probably laughing after that, but I can't get mad at you. But we're going to see. But I think right now, if I had to pick an NFC East team, I'll have to put the Philadelphia Eagles ahead of the Dallas Cowboys at this point, even though they lost 2 and they're both sitting at 1-1. So we'll see. But I'm going to have my picks and stuff coming up later on this week sometime. We'll see how we fare come Sunday. So now, guys, let's turn to the biggest thing that they're talking about more than anything that's been going on around social media as well as on the local news, national news, and what have you. They're talking about Sean Diddy Combs, a.k.a. P. Diddy, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, a.k.a. the Diddler. The Diddler was captured in New York City, and as many of us already know, he just lost his second bail hearing today. Just lost his second bail hearing today. And so having a little experience of this of myself, I began to think, why would they deny him the second time? I kind of thought they probably would have given him his bail, but since he had such a big bail package, that's the reason why I'm saying that. He was willing to put up his mom's house as well as another house that he had, I think, in Miami, about $50 million to post bail, and they was going to have security around his house. He already turned over his passports to his attorneys. So, and also they was going to take away his phone, so he wouldn't have no contact with anybody because they was hitting him with obstruction of justice because he posed that tried to reach out to an individual who I think the government was looking at bringing in as a part of this case. But nevertheless, the judge, which is a female judge too, that caught my attention with everything that he's being charged with, denied him bail. Now, I think they may, as well as they should. I mean, I wouldn't lose hope, but I will appeal to the circuit court. I think in New York it's the second district circuit court who they can appeal to try to get another bail hearing. But usually in situations like that, they kind of go with the lower courts, unless there's something that happened that was misappropriated, factors wasn't handled correctly. They usually go with the lower court's opinion. And you got to understand and remember, he's already had a magistrate judge, and now he had the actual judge who is supposed to preside over the case itself. So his chances of getting out are very, very slim to none. And I don't think, if I'm not mistaken, Epstein, the one that died in prison, I think he was putting up like a $56 million bond, and they didn't let him out. Of course, we know what happened in his situation. He wound up dying in that situation. But man, I want to be clear about something before I get into this a little bit more, deeper. I'm not a Diddy guy. I'm a man of principles. I'm a man of character. And Diddy have had so many warning shots. And if many of us are familiar with scripture, we know that God says, first the warning, then destruction. So over his years, the years that he's been in that industry, his ego began to grow and grow and grow. Kind of like in the movie The Gremlins. If many of y'all remember The Gremlins, you pour a little water on one and you pour a little water on the next one, and it grows just like pouring water on a plant. You pour water on a plant, it starts to percolate, it starts to grow. Well, sometimes people can get fed on their own ego. They start ego tripping and they get a little bit of success. Then the power kicks in. And once the power kicks in, or the limited power that you think you have, when we know God has all the power. But if you're blinded by success, that's exactly what sometimes happens. You can't recover from it. You can't come back from it, because now people begin to get drunk on their own success, and you get a little bit of power, and you don't know how to distribute that success accordingly the way God intended for you to do. You know, when you were struggling and didn't have much, and you was on your way up, you was humble. You was humble. But it's something about, for a lot of people, they get a little bit of success and they think it's the ultimate. And so when you look at Diddy, just look at his track record way back when he was working as a A&R of Uptown Records, and he was hustling, man, and he was going up there to Howard, he was throwing the parties and stuff like that. You didn't see that Diddy. All you saw was a creative musical genius who was able to stay behind those boards in the studio and just put out hit records. That's what you saw. But then all of the success and the deals come, and then you start seeing the arrogance. Pride and arrogance. Those are the two factors, or the two denominators. Pride and arrogance that can take a person down just as quick as an airplane going down, running out of fuel. Those two things right there, pride and arrogance. And then the abusive nature started to come into play when people don't line up with your vision any longer, or how you're going about doing things. So for you to do the things that they're alleging that you've done, I mean, they've just basically, created this monster. Now, here's the thing. Y'all got to understand, as far as the indictment itself. Now, when I looked at the indictment, understanding a little bit of the law and the federal procedures, I was talking with a friend of mine, and I explained. I said, let me share something with you. There will be a superseding indictment. You can book it. It will be a superseding indictment. Meaning, for those of you all who don't know what that is, possibly, that's where, like, right now they put an indictment on it. But see, you can, as they say, you can indict a fish sandwich. That don't really mean anything. They just call in a grand jury. They go through the process, lay out some of the information just to get an indictment, because they don't know if he's going to try to flee the country, if he's got some information that they're unaware of, and he try to, expedite, kind of the way Eric Snowden did when he left and went to Russia. They don't know that, so they say, okay, we got enough to be able to bring him in, so let's go ahead and bring him in on what we have, and then we'll start building our case from there. So that's what happened in this case. But you can best believe there is another indictment that's going to be superseding that indictment, meaning they're coming with another indictment that will replace that indictment, and that's going to be a long conspiracy, because he got charged with RICO. And for those of you all who don't know what RICO is, it's racketeering influence corruption organization. That's what it is. Racketeering influence corruption organization. And when Congress first enacted this RICO, I think it was done in 1970. It was really done for the mafia. That's what it was. That's who it was actually done for, the mafia, the Italian mafia. But prosecutors, they've given them a wide range of how they can bring charges against a person. And so when I looked at the indictment, I went online, I read the indictment and what he was charged with. I think it was everything is under Title 18 USC. Anytime you see Title 18 represents certain both civil and criminal crimes, but there are certain other crimes that they laid out so far in the indictment he haven't been charged with, but you would think that he had been charged with when they start showing the AR rifles and the guns that they say that was illegal. Now, understand that they said he had legal firearms, but he also had illegal firearms. Now, you could ask the question, well, how did he have illegal firearms if he had a security team and he was licensed? Well, what they were saying, if you listen to, I think it's Damian Williams, of the U.S. attorney, who was talking in the media, he said that 3 of the AR rifles, none of them had serial numbers on there. And you can see where the serial numbers have been defaced. So if you all don't know this, let me explain something. In the United States, they have over nearly 60 million laws on the books. 60 million laws on the books. Now, one could easily ask, why would you need 60 million laws on the books? If y'all remember several years ago, Barack Obama was speaking to the media, and he made the statement that we are a nation of laws. That we are a nation of laws. Do you realize and know that every time a statute is enacted by Congress, or even at the state, local level, more and more people start to go to jail? Have you ever noticed that? Because what they're doing is they're studying the psychology of people. 12 months, just like with a credit card, right? There's a payment history within 12 months. They want to know, how do you pay 12 months? Some people pay excellent, some people pay okay, some people pay horribly. That's kind of the way the mind works, because that's the symbolic number where you're cycling through. That's why we got 12 months of the year, because we're cycling through things. So based on those 12 months, it's going to give a clear picture whether or not if your behavior is of excellent standing, or if it's relegated to something that's deviated from excellence. That's how they look at it. So if you notice, just like in the bail hearing, one of the things they kept bringing up, one of the reasons why he didn't get bail on his second attempt was simply because he was committing obstruction of justice, and he was contacting the individual who, again, they want to bring into the case. Where they're looking at, he probably wouldn't even, to be honest with you, he probably wasn't even aware of it. But as soon as they know they don't ruffle your feathers, they're going to put whether if it's a private investigator or somebody from the federal court, they're going to follow you without you even knowing it. They're going to see how you're going to move without even them being indicted. He wasn't even indicted. And this came about that he was contacting this individual like 54 times. How would they know that? He hadn't even been indicted, but how would they know that? Because they already know once they shook the tree, it was going to make him move. There's an old ancient proverb that said, if you beat the grass, the snake will move. So they just ruffled his feathers a little bit just to see how he was going to move. And he bought the bait, so to speak. So what we're dealing with right now with the federal indictment, you're talking about Title 18 USC 1962, Title 18 USC 1591, I think Title 18 242. That's dealing with sex trafficking and RICO charges. But if you notice, there's not I think it's under 924, Title 18, 924 will be gun laws, armed fire. That's where you see ATF come in, all right? ATF. You don't see an indictment on those guns yet, but I think what they're doing is that they like to fluff it a little bit. They like to over sensationalize it a little bit, because they want the public opinion to weigh in on this. They want to try him in the media. They want to try him in the environment, so that he'll already be condemned and already be found guilty by his peers based on public opinion. So that's why they over sensationalize an indictment. But the indictment itself is kind of strange, if you ask me, because here's the thing. They got him for sex trafficking, right? Allegedly. But I pause when I say this, because unless they are able to find someone, which they probably will, because here's what they do. Basically, they're going to go to somebody and they're going to find something on that individual, like the one white guy who they arrested already, who was supplying the ecstasy drugs, right? So he's already going to probably get on the bus first. They say whoever get on the bus first gets the best deal. So he's probably going to jump on the bus first already anyway. But to make their case, because first and foremost, when you talk about Cassie and what he did to Cassie, if you understand the cases and understand law and how it works, that's really a state case. That's really not a federal case. I'm going to repeat that and say it again. The domestic violence that he had against Cassie that everybody saw in the video, that is really a state case, not a federal case. But what they're doing is trying to tie it all in, because they're saying that he crossed interstate with the commercial sexual workers. So what they're going to try to do, and they probably will be successful, they're going to try to find at least, because all they need is really one person to say this was non-consensual. That everybody that crossed over interstate commerce, that it was non-consensual. That's all they need for one person to say that it was non-consensual. Okay? So this is one of the, their strategies and tactics, I believe, to try to claim jurisdiction in this case. Because when you look at if you read the indictment, go online, read the indictment on the PDF, Those cases talking about racketeering, was that you got to prove force. You got to prove, if you heard in the language, they were saying this is a Diddy enterprise or a Diddy company, but they didn't charge him with a CCE. A CCE is a criminal enterprise. Okay, the reason why they haven't charged him with a CCE because you have to first have committed a crime with your company, then turn around and did it again. So you got to do it twice before they can charge you with that. They're just painting a picture based on Bad Boy, the company that he created, so to speak. But they haven't charged him with a CCE because this is his first time ever being indicted, and they don't have a conviction yet. So they just named his company to paint a picture for the public. That's all they've done. But if you comb through the indictment line by line and understand how the federal government works and how the state works, some of these charges are really state or should be state cases. Just let me put it like that. But the only thing that I see that is really federal at this particular time is the interstate commerce, again, with the so-called commercial workers crossing interstate lines. But everybody was an adult. Now, they saying there's supposed to have been some minors. I don't know. I didn't see that in the indictment. I didn't read that in the indictment. I just saw where he had other charges that was inside the indictment. But I don't see anything where there was minors or people underage. I know what they're saying. I'm just saying I don't see it in the indictment, okay? So if these people come in and say, and they got to be real careful now, because remember, they're saying if you saw something and you knew that this was going on, then you're going to be liable too. Libel, L-I-B-E-L, as well as liable, L-I-A-B-I-L-E, okay? So understand the two. So it's almost like you're self-incriminating yourself. If you say, yeah, I was at the party, because they got the videos. They wouldn't have never brought the indictment, this temporary indictment, if they hadn't already seen what was on the video. They're going to see these individuals, and they're going to go to those individuals and say, was this consensual or was it non-consensual? Did you know about this? Because your role in all of this how you can be in charge. I would say anybody who was at a Diddy party, you need to lawyer up. Go get you an attorney. I'm telling you, go get you an attorney because I know how the federal system works. Get you an attorney because they have a thing called, and many of you probably don't even know this, there's a thing called, it's on the Title 18 USC 4, I think it's USC 4 or USC 5. It's called misprison of a felony. And let me explain to y'all what a misprison of a felony is. A misprison of a felony is simply this. You can see a crime being committed, but you never said anything. You chose to look the other way. You never said anything. And that's how they're going to probably scare a lot of people with a misprison of a felony. Now, some people may have, some of these statutes read where it starts out 10 years to 20 years, all the way up to a life sentence, right? But there's levels to this. And more than likely, you're not going to have people who are grown adult people having some type of, they say freak off, some sexual escapade, be given a draconian kind of sentence like that. But if you've never been to prison ever in your life, it could feel that way because this particular statute, misprison of a felony, I think it only carry a maximum of 3 years. But again, 3 years can seem like 300 years to a lot of people. It just depends on how you built. It just depends on how you built. So they're gonna play that game, and people like, I remember hearing Stevie J, one of P. Diddy's closest friends, and I remember hearing him talk on TMZ, and I said to myself, say, man, you too close to the fire. You need to be real quiet around this time because the things you say can come back and be held against you. And what they'll do is say, okay, you want some of this? Get on over there with them. And they'll have a big old large drag net that's going to put everybody in. It's like casting your line out at sea. And you just putting up all these shrimps and crabs or whatever. That's what you're going to run into, a situation like that. So you can't blame people if they start running like roaches away from Diddy, away from the situation, because you all know there's been a lot of parties they talked about with P. Diddy, from the East Coast to the West Coast, all the way in the middle. And there's a lot of video, a lot of data, a lot of man, there's some things that's gonna come out, and some of your favorite people who you got, and I keep telling you about people, you know, you can't, these people are not popular, more popular than God. When they use certain language like icons, uh, uh, um, she's a goddess, he's a god, this is shirk. This is adding associates and partners with the Most High God. Don't God say in his scriptures in the Bible that he's a jealous God? Make no graven images of me and bow to those images. Well, he says the same thing in the Quran, that he is only one God. Don't add no associates or partners with God. He's clear about that. So individuals who sit there and they see the Taylor Swifts of the world, they see the Beyoncés of the world, they see all these so-called superstars, they make them into demigods and they bow and worship. And God is telling you not to do this. And now you see what happens, because Satan loves, this is his playground. He loves to give these false images. He builds these people up. They get drunk on their own success, and then he watch them fall. Every single time he watches them fall. Because why? Satan is an open enemy. He's an open, avowed enemy to us all. I don't know when we gonna, not learn that. He's not your friend. He's not. And you own his playground, because when people become desperate, when people start to feel a certain way, when people again become full of themselves, you think that he's gonna have your back. Now he's gonna turn to God. Ain't no doubt about it. Ain't no doubt about it. Because this is what most people do. But as God says in the scripture, when trouble avails a man or a woman, they cry on all sides. On their left side, oh God. On their right side, oh God. Standing, sitting. Now they call on God. But they don't remember God in the good times. But they want God to remember them in the bad. And this is the problem with the human psyche, the problem with human nature. This is a big problem. So now you want to come to God, as well as you should. I'm not knocking that. But here's what I am knocking. Because that same verse that I just read, that when trouble touches a man or a woman, they cry from all sides. When God brings them out of the storm, guess what he says then? They go on their way as if they never asked him at all. Is that not what some people do? Now you done cried, shed tears, done slang snot, you done did everything you can to gain God's favor to get you out this situation. And when he blessed you to come out of the situation, you go on your very way as if you never prayed to God at all. And that's a sad situation for a person to be in. So again, but God say, you go back to your sin and I go back to my punishment. Who you think gonna win that? Because again, Diddy done had all types of signs. First comes the warning and the signs, then destruction. He had the sign when it came down to that shooting where Shine went to prison for 10 years because of Diddy. He had the situation with Biggie Small, a murder that still haven't been solved. He's had all types of signs, guys. But yet, when the lines are blurred and you're caught up emotionally in this material life, you can't see it. There's a veil over his eyes where there's a seal over his heart. He just can't see it. But I guarantee you he sees it now, because sitting in a federal detention is not a beautiful sight. He's in a cold little room right now with a little old bitty, probably a silver toilet with one roll of toilet paper. When you go from living the lifestyle of a Diddy to a little bitty cell room that your closet was 2 times bigger than, man, that's a humbling feeling. Yeah. And I detail a lot of that. Many of y'all know about the book. When I wrote this book right here, I don't know if y'all can see this book or not, but I wrote this book right here, The Field That Wasn't Level. Let me see if I can even get a clear view of it for you guys, because I think I'm kind of blurred out, but I want to make sure you all see it, because people don't quite understand. They don't quite understand when things happen. When things happen, you have to have a backup plan. You have to have a backup plan. Yeah. When I wrote this book right here, The Field That Wasn't Level, I published this book back in 2021. I got another one coming out next year, by the way. But this book right here, The Field That Wasn't Level, which is at Barnes and Nobles and Amazon, I detailed a lot of things about the federal system and how the government works. If you got a relative or anybody that you know, that's a great book to read. Because I'm telling you, I'm not telling you from reading a book or waiting on CNN to give me my reports. They can't tell me nothing about that system because I've seen inside the belly of the beast. I've seen inside the belly of the beast, and I know how they work. I know how they move. I know exactly how they move and how they work and what's going to come out of this situation at some point. You mark my word, there will be a superseding indictment. Other people will be brought into this situation, and that's going to be people getting on the bus first, trying to cut a deal, a plea bargain. And here's another thing. They're going to go talk to people that Diddy's never going to be aware of. They call them 302s. These are the papers and stuff. The 302s, this is the investigation part of it where they'll go speak to somebody that they might have been standing right next to him laughing all the time in his face. And yet they're talking to them people on the investigation because they done secretly brought them in and say, hey, look, here's what we got on you, how you want to help yourself. And he'll never know the difference. See, this is the game that's being played on a higher level right now. This is a game. He's in the pit of I'm telling you something, the federal government. Now, let me explain this too, because I put this again in the book. In the book, The Field That Wasn't Level. People talk about this 95 to 97% conviction rate that the federal system have. Okay. And when they quote that, it's like they say it with so much bravado. And if you work for the federal government, it's kind of like beating on your chest like you're King Kong. They say it with so much bravado. But let me explain something to you guys. 95 to 97% conviction rate. You should be asking yourself, if it's so close, why don't they get themselves 100%? If they saying they got a 97 to 95% conviction rate, why don't they give themselves 100%? You know why? Because the American people will understand that it has to be something wrong or something's going on, because nothing is 100%. You can't give yourself 100% of anything, because when you do that, you're saying that it's being perfected. There's no imperfections. So you're going to tell me that the government has no imperfection? No, that's not what's happening. What you got to understand, this is nothing but a money grab. It is a money grab, but it's played out in society to make it look like, oh, he violated a criminal act based on the statutes that we enacted. Okay. Of course, we say allegedly because they got to prove that first. They got to prove that first. But this is the thing that they're putting out in the media. So they give themselves a 95 to 97% conviction rate, but they don't give themselves 100%. You know why? Because they gotta let at least 3 to 5% out of the situation. They gotta let 3 to 5% of people out of the loophole. Because if you give yourself 100%, people are going to start questioning, what are you really doing? It is a money grab. Now, a lot have been said, and I saw my guest was coming on. If you can come back into the studio, I'll bring you up to the stage. A lot has been said about Ciroc. We know that Diddy owned, or he was part owner of 50-50 split with Ciroc, this company they're based in British. These are telltale signs. I want y'all to get this. I really want you guys to get this. When did all this start for P. Diddy, right? They gave him the key to the city last year. The video came out in May, but he split with the company Diageo, which is a British-based company. You should underline that word British. If any of you guys know anything about the history of British, they say wherever the sun set, there you will find the British Empire. Wherever the sun set, there you will find the British Empire. So when did all this begin to happen? When he did the split, when he sued Ciroc, all you got to do is do your homework, do your due diligence. Find out who are the people, the shareholders, who really own Diageo, the company, and Ciroc. You know what you're going to find? There are two companies, two shareholders, two really big companies. One of them is called the Vanguard Group. The Vanguard Group, and the other one is called the BlackRock Investments. And you know what, guys? They have these are asset fund managing companies. They manage over $1 trillion, multiple trillions, not just 1 trillion, multiple trillions of dollars. Do they manage these asset fund managers? You're dealing with the big boys. You're dealing with the big boys, those who can pick up the phone and just make one phone call. I'm telling you, this is how big this thing have gotten. Diddy have really pissed some people off. And the biggest thing is, some of those people was probably at some of those parties because they know his weaknesses. It's almost like they say, you never tell a man tell a person what your weaknesses are. They know whatever his desires for what they call pederast, lovers of boys. That's the word, the Greek word they use, pederast, lovers of boys. You know, you got these freak offs. Then you're a voyeur because you want to see your girl, as they're allegedly saying Cassie did, and even Kim Porter, God rest her. So you want to have these swing outs. You want to sit back and watch two people have sexual relationships while you masturbate watching them have sex. You're sick in the mind. And you don't think these people knew that? You don't think these people knew what your weaknesses were? They say, okay, you want to play with us? We're going to show you something. We're going to pick the phone up and make a call way across the waters because, again, the company is based in British. But who do you think still own America? Don't forget who set up America. Who set up the original Constitution for the United States? England did. Go back and read your history. England did. United States Corporated in 1871. They took all of the copyrights in 1871. United States of America, United States for America, the U.S., all that's been copywritten, all of it. But they still got to jump on Air Force One, go to the G8 Summit and kiss the ring of the crown of England. And you think Diddy is going to sit here, man, and deal with people like that and get away with it? It's the same thing happened with Michael Jackson with Capitol Records. Same thing happened with Prince, with Warner Brothers. Just do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. This thing has gotten really bigger than Diddy, but they got to make an example out of him. And they're going to make an example out of him because they didn't give him a bond. When you know, if you got his passports and everything else, again, I tell him all the time, sometimes it's not about money, it's about power. And he thought he had power. And they're going to show you who has the power. But I always say God has all the power. No matter what they do, whatever come out of this for P. Diddy, I would hope and pray that this brother, because let's look at it from this angle. Look at it from this angle. We all know the tragic story we heard back in January of 2020 when Kobe Bryant passed away in the plane crash. But one could say that he maximized his life. Kobe Bryant did more in 40 years than most people have done in 80 years or 90 years. Diddy has done a lot for his age. I think he's about 54, 55, somewhere in there. So he's done a lot in life, except the situation that's happening to him now. But what does the scripture say? What profits a man to gain the whole world, but he lose his soul? I'm going to say it again. What profits a man or a woman, for that case, to gain the entire world, but then lose your soul? So Diddy lost his soul along the way. You think he was born like that? No, that image was created. It was self-inflicted. And again, God gonna give you a sign. He gonna keep telling you, come on back, come on back, come on back. And some of us get it and some of us don't. So the best thing that I can say for Diddy in a situation like this is I broke down the metaphor of the letter E and the letter F. What do we see these two letters at? The letter E and the letter F inside of our automobile. But what does that mean? Well, for the common thinker, the carnal-minded person, they just say, well, if my hand is on E, that means, I'm empty. And if it's on F, that means I got a full tank of gas. But now put that in the spiritual world. If F in the spiritual world, if you're driving a car on the highway of life, this vehicle on the highway of life, F represents that you're full spiritually. F represents faith. And the E that represents empty, you can be empty on faith, represents evil. That's the spiritual thing. That's the spiritual, that's a higher meaning. I know some of y'all would never see that, never take it from that, because you're looking at it from a lower level instead of a higher plane. God is teaching us through all these signs and symbols and allegoricals and parables. Remember, America is based on Greek mythology. It's based on Egyptology. It just is. All you got to do is study it for yourself. Everything about the United States, the District of Columbia, the 10-mile square, the obelisk, all that stuff is taken out of Egypt. So I'm only sharing a little bit of this with you guys. So hopefully you have a higher horizon as the days start to pass by, as it relates to Sean Puffy Cone and his ordeal that he's going to have to be going through. Because again, there will be more and more people that's going to get involved in this. There ain't no telling the name that's going to come out of this. The only way you probably don't hear about it, if they go do a proffer. A proffer is where you go to the attorney and you're asking for a plea deal based on however you can help them succeed in their case, and they kind of leave your name out of it. What they'll do is they'll put an initial there, and then they'll black it out so it, unless it's redacted or whatever the case may be. And you'll never know who really testified against P. Diddy. Excuse me. You won't really know, but they getting on the bus. Yeah, they getting on the bus. So remember that those concepts, those allegories, those parables, those symbols, they are real. Just like the sun that shines on you, the sun is a symbol every day. They say if the sky was a face, then the sun would be the right eye and the moon would be the left eye. You got big light and soft light. And amongst everything else, you got stars. So we got to understand what the signs and the symbols are. And hopefully don't get caught up in a situation the way Diddy did. So I'm gonna be talking a little bit more about this from day to day, and I wanted to share it because it's all over the media. We've already seen it. I want to talk about the indictment because you're hearing a lot of people just piling on and giving their opinion, but it's really, to me, have a lot of substance because they only sound like parrots. They're only repeating what the media is saying. Find you somebody who done been through it. I'm gonna tell you how it's gonna go. Exactly how it's gonna go. This ain't something I read in a book. I wrote my own book about the government and what they do, the field that wasn't level. I wrote my own book. Again, you can get that copy at Barnes and Nobles and Amazon, on Amazon. So again, I'm gonna be still talking about this because we're a long way from this being over, and they're gonna keep them right there without violating this constitutional right, because they got a case law as Barker versus Wingo, when it talks a right to a fair, I know it's under the 6th Amendment, a right to a fair and speedy trial. Well, because the evidence is so much for them to sort through, they have a way, what they call days of justice. If it means that the public have to get, justice, what they call days of justice, so there's no injustice, man, they can extend this thing all the way out for 2 years. He'll be sitting over there in the detention for 2 years. So I hope they monitor that brother. I hope don't nothing happen to him, because a lot was said with Epstein, how Epstein died. He had a lot on a lot of people. He had a lot on a lot of people. And I know Diddy got a lot on a lot of people. And if his faith, if he's on empty because of evil and he don't fill up his spiritual fuel, he get on that bus and he gonna tell on some people. But at the same time, they may not even want those people unless it's really money in it. See, it got to be some money in it. It has to be some money. And this is a money case. This is definitely a money case, all in all, because again, a lot of the charges that I've read, they are really state. This is really state. The only thing that's making them come into this is the interstate commerce part, because they have jurisdiction over the commerce clause. All you got to do is read the United States Constitution. And if you notice, they didn't charge Diddy yet anyway with the Manns Act. The Manns Act was charged in R. Kelly's case. But the Manns Act, M-A-N-N-S, was an act that was enacted back in 1910 by, I think it was by Congressman James R. Mann, the Manns Act. And they really did it. The other name to the Man's Act was called the White Slavery Act. And it was really done because of Jack Johnson. Many of y'all remember the famous boxer back in the early 1900s, Jack Johnson, because he was dating white women and he was also messing with white women who was considered prostitutes. So they created this particular act for Jack Johnson. They didn't want him messing with these white women and so forth, but he was such a he was a commodity. Let me put it like that, because of his prowess to box in the fight. He was making the white folks a lot of money. So they was like, hey man, don't touch our prize fighter. But they came out with this act specifically for Jack Johnson and those who would engage with white women who were prostitutes. Just look it up, okay? So guys, I want to, hop on real quick and do the replay culture sports show, and this is the culture part of it. Y'all know how we do it over here. We'll talk about the sports, but we definitely got to get to the culture part of it. So again, I want to thank you guys for hopping on with me. I had to go dolo solo, but we'll be back again. I do what I got to do because it's in me to do it, and God has blessed me to do it. So for y'all who have come on, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, help your boy out. Help your boy out. I'm trying to bring the best content that I possibly can. But don't forget, again, to hit the like, subscribe, share, and notification button, and we'll keep bringing it to you. So I appreciate you guys for coming on with me. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And until we come back on this thing, y'all be blessed, stay safe, and stay out of harm's way. Life is so precious. Again, we lost Frankie Beverly, we lost Brother Tito Jackson. And we never know. No one never knows the hour, day, or time. So be blessed, and we'll talk to you and see you soon. Peace out, y'all.